So the cat swap frame has been sitting out in the yard for a little while I've been using the shop for something else. But it's ready, so I got these tacked in. I'm gonna go ahead and run some nice heavy beads in there. I gotta cut these tacks and swap this mount around so it's up top instead of at the bottom. And then the tack for that rear mount broke off, but that one's still there. So I'm gonna line that one back up. I'm gonna drill holes, and I'm gonna probably do 2 at the top and 1 at the bottom. I'm gonna use 1/2-inch bolts. That should be plenty strong enough for the rear engine mount. And then once it's like that, I can basically line up the engine and drill the holes going downwards, so that way I can put in the engine mounts and bolt it down. So I got another hoodie giveaway. This one's going to Jack Barron down in the States. He comments all the time. Very supportive. If you want yourself a Stoker Garage hoodie, just leave a comment. Person who leaves the most comments every month gets a free hoodie. Unless they're just quick clips. See what's gonna be like. Oh yeah, not bad. I'm sitting somewhere in there like that, so it's gonna be off to the center probably. Just a little bit. Squish these guys right flat too. Alrighty, that is in there. I guess now you just bolt down the rear engine mounts and set the engine down, drill some holes. Yeah, cool. Cool. Lines up in here. I kind of want to get one of those pressure washing sand blasters and try and do up the frame like that.
That'd be pretty cool.
So yeah, hold tight like that. And same for the other side, but I think because they've got like the frame lap in there, I'm gonna need to add a little shim on the back side. Yeah, like this side, a little shim in there. Or just tighten it down and see what it does. I mean, it won't be as strong if it's not pulled flat up against there though. Yeah, I'd be kind of pulling it like that, which I want. I want it to be flat. So yeah, I'll cut out a little bit more 1/4-inch plate for that. Carpenter's hammer for draws. So we have our rear engine mount, and I cut out a spacer plate because where the mount bolts to, this lap and this kink in the frame makes it uneven. So I'm gonna weld this to the backside of here. So basically when you tighten the bolts down, it clamps it flat against the frame and won't be loose or uneven. Yeah, you know, you'll have that on those jobs of certain sizes. Don't even get much penetration. That doesn't matter. Okay. Driver's side. Now do the passenger side. Okay. Now we can bolt those on up. Cut out a nice fish plate to put over like that and drill through that too, so it'll give it 1/2 inch that's bolting through. So if they're a little bit too rubbery, seem like they aren't quite strong enough, I can do that. Even though I don't think it'll be a problem, I can also just do it because I guess I feel like it needs a bit more strength to it. Next step is to lift the engine. We're Canadian, so we use hockey pucks instead of proper engine mounts.
The suspension sag is real. Whole front end dropped like 4 inches.
I know. It looks like this side of the engine's higher than that side, so I might have to make some adjustments in my, because I got to remake these mounts so they have a hole in the center. So I might have to make it a little bit up higher. It does look like it's all kind of tilting that way. I mean, I guess it's gonna put more weight on that side of the frame though, because the engine's over that way.
Yeah.
Man, I don't know. I guess I'll pry it around so it's pretty well centered. There she sits in the truck again, but I need to remake these back mounts because I didn't make them wide enough, so I put a gusset in the middle, but I want to bolt down the center, so I'll make them wider so that I can have gusset from each corner, and then, yeah, maybe come out a little bit more so they can support the engine a bit better. Also, looks like this mount's somewhat interfering with the rear cover, so I might have to do some grinding so it's not rubbing and interfering there. But yeah, once I have the front and back of the engine mounted down, then I can line up the transmission and build a transmission mount, I guess. And looking at how high this is, I'm not sure how well it's going to clear underneath the hood. I mean, yeah, I think the turbos might hit the hood. I guess we would make like a ridiculously large cowl hood for it. And then also, it looks almost like it might be tipping back almost too much. But with it like this, the oil filters actually clear the diff where they weren't before, so. I don't know, I'm just gonna run with this for now and kind of play with lining it up later. So here are two new rear engine mounts. Here's the old one. Problem with the old one, I didn't make it wide enough to clear the bolts and get the gusset on there. So I got these ones, they're a fair bit wider. They got our gussets out of the way enough. We can do our bolts up still. So I'm gonna end up with those 4 half-inch bolts into the rear cover, basically, rear structure, rear housing. And then I'll have a half-inch bolt going straight down there through the rubber rear engine mounts. I'm gonna take them off to paint them still. Ow, that's hot. Oh.
Just cross thread the bolts. They'll never come undone and you'll never have to worry about your motor falling off.
Very true. Problem is when you cross thread them, then they refuse to go in all the way.
Because you got this thing right there for it, yeah.
The cross threader 3000.
Yep.
It's very hot. The bracket is very warm. The rest of the work I'll do might be kind of sketchy, but at least, you know, the engine mounts themselves are going to be more than strong enough for this. So, I mean, that's at least an upside, or at least a strong point that we'll have. Oh, they're not as snug of a fit as I was hoping. Yeah. All of a sudden it drops and shears my fingers off.
Wouldn't we want to set it down on the plate and mark where we want the bolt to go to first?
No, I want you to line it up so we can, because it's going to be off slightly without a hockey puck in there. You can drill right through the hockey puck too.
Oh, I guess so, yeah.
I figured if you set it down exactly where it's going to be, and you just drill through everything there. I want the bolts so that way it's perfectly lined up, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Because otherwise getting the hockey puck lined up in the center won't be very easy. Hey, you call that centered?
I never said they were centered.
I said get them as close to center as possible.
That's not what you said.
That's as close as possible? That is exactly what I said. I said get them as close to center as possible.
I think you lying.
That's exactly what I said to do.
That's not what you said.
Then we have electrical tape. Very much have my fingers in a pinch point right now. Good thing I trust those engine mounts.
Good thing you don't have the previous one still.
Yeah, the lifting plates. That's what I'm trying to say. Oh, I gotta drill the holes for the front too.
Mm-hmm. Which will be difficult. You have to mark them and drill them. Because you can't get at them from the top of where the crank pulley is.
I'm changing where they are. I don't know why they're so far in, right?
Yeah.
I want them on the outside, that way they actually support the engine's twisting motion more. Ow.
Well, they're meant to go in a semi-truck frame, which is different.
Yeah, well, what I want is when I have the engine squared, I'm gonna drill straight down here, straight down here.
Yeah.
So we can have, because having them under there just makes it a pain to undo the bolts, right?
No, that's why I wasn't quite understanding how we were doing that.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, I guess we'll center this up and center down. So we have the engine sitting on the engine mounts, and we just want to make sure the rear bell housing is basically straight with the frame. So I'm holding that spreader bar up against there and checking with this square up against the frame, and gotta check the other side, but I think we're pretty much square. So that's pretty good. Not too bad for just kind of eyeballing it. Check that guy. Yeah, okay, well, I mean, the frame kind of goes out after that, but yeah, that's pretty much straight on. So I guess we can just kind of drill those guys out now, and I gotta figure out how to mount the front of the engine now. Now we actually have the engine completely bolted down. We got our front engine mounts done up. We got our rear engine mounts done up. It's actually secured, so I just tightened up the bolts on those exhaust manifolds. I removed the headers and plugged off the oil feed lines for the turbo because I want to run it again just without the turbos on it, because obviously I don't have the oil feed lines hooked up for that. But I'm going to just go ahead and do the oil filters on there and fill it up with some oil because I haven't filled it up since pulling that oil pan off. And yeah, then it's ready for a test run.
We got cat filters for a cat meat. Fanciness.
And that's not how you change the oil filters, but that is how you oil your floor nicely. I think I might have drained more than a bucket of oil out of it. I don't remember. So I got a couple of fuel lines shoved into an ATF jug with some diesel in it. I got the injection pump primed up. So now it's just time for us to hopefully fire it up without too much cranking. I guess we'll see, because that's got a pretty small undersized battery and some jumper cables. And yeah, literally all I gotta do is run positive to this wire right here, and she should fire right on up. There's also, I don't even know how good this battery is. 2. I'm pretty sure that guy is negative. So I made a temporary cover for the intake, which is just a piece of 1/4-inch plate here, and I almost tried to fire it up with that guy still on there. That probably would have wrecked some stuff. It would have like just imploded the intake manifold. Are we professionals? Absolutely not. But do we get it done anyways? Most of the time, no. Go anywhere. Those headers sound so cool. It's definitely got a different bark to it now than it did with the original exhaust manifolds, which I really like. So pretty cool, pretty cool. I can't wait to hear it with the turbos on it though. How warm are these getting? Just getting warm enough. Yeah, I'll let it cool down before I run it again because it has 0 coolant in it, completely dry block. The eyes are burning. This thing only ran for a total of like, I don't know, 30 seconds, and we already got soot in the exhaust. Beautiful. Yeah, I did blow a lot of black. It is, you can't even see on the video, but it is so hazy in here. There's some birds up there on the rafters, and they're not too impressed. Our eyes are burning, but that's okay. But that is sweet. I gotta change these rocker covers over, put this one on that side, that one on this side. That's awesome. This definitely needs a proper starter relay setup because it melted the ground cable right into the battery post. Like it's literally just melted into the, it's soldered the copper. Yeah, it is. It's actually like properly soldered there. That's pretty cool. Yeah. Anyways, I'll disconnect all this, and tomorrow when the sun's out, we can drag it outside. We'll actually let it run for a while, maybe with the transmission hooked up behind it too. So we are back to work on the cat swap today. We had a nice test run last night, and now I have the issue of basically we want to run it for a while, and I need some belts. So I got a stack of belts right there, and I'm going to try and find a belt or two that fits between the alternator, crankshaft, and the water pumps. So we're running into one of these design flaws with these engines here. You see we got these oil cooler lines that the coolant runs through this coolant side of the oil cooler. And this is 3/4 inch, that's 3/4 inch. These lines are split. Putting a new hose in there is no big deal. But this here is like 1 inch going to 3/4 inch. So Cat has this little custom hose. Let's see, it's a 1 inch on this side, 3/4 on the other to do that corner. And see, that's just kind of a poor design, because that means if this guy blows, this isn't just a generic hose that you can go ahead and use to replace it. So I'm gonna try and pull this guy out, which is just a little thread-in spigot, and see if I can find one that's a reducer that goes from the 1 inch down to 3/4 inch, because as you can see, the wall is super thick anyway, so it really doesn't need to be that big. Anyways, I like doing stuff like this, so if you're on the side of the road and you have something like a hose like that blows, you can just replace it with generic parts, not specialty parts like this hose, which would probably cost like 60 bucks from Cat to get. And maybe I can find some nice barb fittings to replace all these guys with generic 3/4 inch barb. So I found some 1/2 inch pipe nipples, and I found a 3/4 to 1/2 inch barbed adapter and some Teflon tape. So I'm just gonna put those in there, and then we'll be ready to replace those hoses and she'll be good to go. We got ourselves a nice clean bucket here, cleanish enough. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna roll this rolling chassis on outside. Then we're gonna put these rad hose in it full of water and actually give it a test run and run it for a good while outside up to temp. So then it can circulate water through the bucket.
Getting the coolant bucket filled. Then you're gonna pull this hose off here and fill the block.
Now it's idling smooth. Still a clutch brake in there, but I gotta slide this piece of the pressure plate on in. No grease right now because I'm sure I'm gonna take it apart again. And then, oh, that way. I don't stick. Stick her in a high gear. That'd be crazy.
I should just make a leg like this. A V8 powered leg.
That'd be cool. Next project.